I'd been in EastEnders for just over a year and was beginning to feel more relaxed on the show. At home too, things were looking great as I bought this lovely house in Brentwood, Essex. A lovely old place. I decided to get the builders in to totally revamp it. I wanted it to be perfect. I bought the property itself in my name, but both Gareth and I planned to share the mortgage. It was set off from the main road, had a sweeping drive and ivy growing all round it. The next big thing to happen in my life was totally unexpected, a real bolt from the blue. Gareth's dad, Hayden, was down from his home in Wales and was planning to get engaged to his girlfriend, Christine. Hayden invited us to join him in Hatton Garden in London, where there are loads of jewellers to help him look for a suitable ring. We walked along looking in all the windows, staring at one fabulous trinket after another until I spotted this ring, a gold one, with beautiful aquamarine stones. Gareth knew aquamarine was my favourite colour for an engagement ring because I'd told him a few months earlier about a dream I'd had of a ring just that colour. Gareth caught me gazing wide-eyed at this beautiful jewel. "That's the ring you were talking about, the one you saw in your dream, isn't it?" He took a breath and began, "You know, I've never ever been in love with anyone like I'm in love with you. So if you don't want to call it an engagement ring, we won't. But I want to get you this ring to show you that I love you." I just screamed and jumped up and down and gave him a big cuddle and a big kiss. It felt like a scene from a film. Happy at home, I was happy at EastEnders too. I felt more confident in myself and found I was really starting to get to know people. Wendy Richard was a real revelation. She'd always speak her mind and say all the things I wanted to say but didn't have the nerve. Carol Harrison, who played my treacherous mum Louise, was also very supportive. She used to say she saw me as the daughter she never had. The set was full of characters. What can a girl say about Mike Reed? There's so much more to Mike than the public realise. He's a comic, a writer, an actor and a TV presenter. The day he came in to do his first scene with me, I noticed he was wearing the naffest pair of trainers you've ever seen, a tasteful combination of beige and baby blue. I introduced myself to him and said, "Hello," adding, "Oh, by the way, nice trainers." Quick as a flash, Mike hit back, "Yeah, and you've got nice tits." All the crew burst out laughing and Mike turned round and said to them deadpan, "Oh, and I see you boys have already noticed that." I went bright red. He put me in my place all right, and I never again said anything that would slightly challenge Mike Reed. Pam St Clement was another funny one, but in a completely different way. Pam is beautifully spoken with a dry sense of humour. It's not until you meet her that you realise what a great actress she is, simply because she and Pat Evans are poles apart. I don't think Patsy Palmer and I would ever have become friends if it wasn't for the fact that we work day in, day out together. Even now I'd never say we're compatible as people, but we're best mates on screen, of course, and great confidence off camera. We're not too close, but we're never too far away either. With everything looking so rosy, it was inevitable that something bad was to happen. And sure enough, Keith finally crawled out of the woodwork. His story appeared 16 months after I'd been in Wolford, and on April the 21st, 1996, was splashed across several pages of a Sunday paper. It was a pack of lies from start to finish, a load of twisted rubbish. He even said all this stuff about Mum brainwashing me against him. I thought, the man has lost his mind. After all, I'd been there. I saw so much of what went on, how he treated her, and believe me, you don't forget things like that. There was more aggro in the shape of my first stalker, a man called Reese. Like so many people in the public eye, I've had unwanted attention from stalkers. He started hassling me not long after I bought the house in Brentwood. His sick campaign began with some strange fan mail which Mum dealt with. He was angry with Gareth for touching what he considered to be his precious thing. More worrying, his later letters mentioned certain times and places where he had seen us, even down to what we were wearing. Scary. People have this idea that filming television is really glamorous and fun. Nutters aside, I suppose to a degree it is, but it's also very technical. It's not necessarily easy pulling pints like you've been a real barmaid for years while getting your lines out right. It certainly wasn't in my early days. In fact, doing the drinks was really hard, especially as the optics used to stiffen where the drink would get in overnight. One day, we were all having a bad day at the Vic and Barbara and me were moaning and groaning because the cameraman kept changing the shots. Then I had to get a G&T. I already had a reputation for being clumsy, especially when I got nervous. As I pushed the optic up, With the glass, the gin bottle came out of its bracket and smashed me on the head. I stood there for a moment and can remember Patsy asking me if I was all right. Yeah, I said apparently before bursting out laughing. Then I started to feel dizzy. Patsy could see I wasn't okay, but by the time she said, "She's not all right, Martine's not okay," I had collapsed. There's always a doctor on duty at Elstree, and they got him to give me the once-over. I was fine and felt well enough to carry on working. Fine. OK, I lied. My head was in agony, but the show must go on. One of Patsy's best friends, Sid Owen, has got the crudest mouth in the world, even if he is hilarious with it. When I first started on EastEnders, me and Sid didn't get on. In fact, we hated each other. I was nervous while he was really loud and boisterous. He was also fiercely protective of Patsy, whom he'd known for years and years like you wouldn't believe. Someone told him that I'd said something derogatory. The truth was, I never said a bad word about Patsy to anyone, but that didn't stop Sid being very offish with me for a long time. Ross never got too involved with anybody. You'd think at first he's a bit straight-laced. He's got a booming voice too, and if I'm honest, he frightened me a little. I'll never forget the time we went to film in Paris in September that year, because that was where I really got to know him. There were 7 of us: Ross, Sid, Steve, Gillian Talforth, Patsy, Sophie Lawrence, who played Diane Butcher, and me. We thought we'd have a great time, but we had a manic schedule as it was Grant and Tiff's honeymoon. The 2 characters were really happy at this time, and Ross and I got to snog a lot on a bed in a posh hotel and go shopping. Bliss. One night, he told us he knew this restaurant, so me, Ross, Gilly and a runner named Will all went for a meal. Dinner was perfect. It was the wine that was a problem for me. "I'll tell you what," he said. "For every bottle we have, you have 1 glass." About 5 bottles later, things were getting a little rowdy. By the time we arrived back at our hotel, I was feeling dreadful. As I walked in, I slipped on the marble floor and slid on my front from the doorway to the bar where all the senior EastEnders people were standing. I ended up right under a glass table looking up at our producer and shouting, "Everyone's been saying you're a lesbian, is it true?" "No, I'm not a lesbian," she snapped. "Well then," I said, "if you're not a lesbian, prove it. Who'd you fancy?" "Jeff Bridges," she answered. "Jeff Bridges? You've got to be joking. Who else?" "Brad Pitt," she said. "That's it," I said, eyes rolling in my head and still sprawled on the floor. "We're sorted now." The better things were going at work, the worse things started to go between me and Gareth. I increasingly felt Gareth wasn't fulfilling his end of the bargain, relationship-wise, while he was finding my celebrity status more and more difficult to deal with. If we went out for dinner, people would always come over and chat to me, but ignore him. It started to get underneath his skin. The situation wasn't helped by different working hours. We had very little time together, as he worked at least a couple of nights a week and most weekends while I worked days. I'd still go out with him on Friday or Saturday nights, but would be totally shattered by the end of the evening and spend the rest of the weekend in bed. Both our lives were changing rapidly, but whereas before EastEnders it was always down to me to fit in around his work, I now needed him to fit around my career. I suppose the first cracks in our relationship broke through not long after our engagement, though neither of us would have admitted that at the time. We were both so in love, neither of us wanted to acknowledge things had changed. People started to book Gareth who would never have considered him before. There was a catch though, as they also used to ask if I would be joining him. Gareth told me much later that his workload plummeted when we split. The one thing I'd always wanted since I was a little girl, the one thing I knew I needed to make me happy, stardom, was the very thing that was destroying our relationship. Things pretty much hit rock bottom at the end of May 1996, when a lot of the younger characters from EastEnders were sent on location to film in Blackpool. It was a rare treat to get away from Elstree, and everyone was in fine spirits, even if the workload looked enormous. We set off at the beginning of June, when the weather, surprise, surprise, was dire. At that time, the vibe at EastEnders was just great. Everybody was trying their damnedest, and the results were there to be seen on screen. The show was on an all-time high, but as far as Gareth was concerned, the trip couldn't have come at a worse time. He was in Italy working hard, and we hadn't seen each other for long enough to iron out our problems. Instead, everything had to be said over the phone, which was far from ideal. One evening after filming in the freezing cold on Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the cast and crew decided to have a few drinks back at the hotel. We all sat around this huge fire, banging £1 coins into the jukebox and taking turns on the pool table. I broke away at around 10 p.m. to ring Gareth from the hotel payphone. It was a mistake. We ended up having an argument, a lover's tiff about absolutely nothing, and I burst into tears. I tried to pull myself together, but didn't do a great job because on my way back to the bar, Paul Nichols saw me. "It's okay, Paul," I said. I'm fine." "You're not fine," he said, and insisted I down a stiff drink. I found myself opening up to him, telling him about all the problems I was having with Gareth. I think he already had a fair idea from my behaviour at Elstree over the previous few weeks. Then Patsy came over and she too asked if I was feeling okay. "Look, I'm fine," I assured them both, doing my best not to make a spectacle of myself. You need to be careful who sees you when you're feeling all emotional, as you don't want to be the cause of gossip. Paul Nichols played Joe Wicks, and he was the most amazingly handsome actor I'd ever set eyes on. He was tall, slim, with long legs, beautiful blue-green eyes that seemed to change colour depending on the light, a mop of dirty blonde hair, big full lips and fresh olive skin. To be honest, he was far prettier than most girls I knew. How confused was I by meeting Paul? Well, actually, I thought there must be something wrong with me because I knew I shouldn't be fancying anyone else. He was very aware of my troubles with Gareth and could see them from another perspective. Paul was very different from me. He never wanted to be famous, whereas I've always loved the fame thing. I loved my picture being taken, but he loathed it, and that was one thing we disagreed on. I wanted to be a star while he hated all that business. He wanted to be an actor because he was very good at being someone else, actually doing the job. All the stuff that came with it he regarded as excess baggage. He wasn't interested in money, he just wanted to get on with the job, and that focus paid off. How he played Joe so brilliantly, aged just 17, is beyond me. My relationship with Gareth took another knock when he refused an invitation to come with me to a wedding. "I'm finding it really difficult sharing you with so many other people," he said. "I don't know why it's not working, but it's not." I drew a deep breath. "I don't really want it to end, Gareth. I've just got to do this to help my own situation. It's not like I can turn back the clock. Even if I wanted to, I can't change what's happened." "That means it's over for us, doesn't it?" I didn't take my ring off, but I did feel like a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The real blow, the kind of smack that sends you reeling sideways, was still to come. On 24th of August, 1996, Mum told me she'd had a call from one of the Sunday newspapers. "Someone's doing a story on you," she said. She volunteered to collect a first edition. I was sitting in a chair by the fireplace when the front door opened. As she walked towards me, her eyes welled up. "I'm sorry, darling. It's him. It's Gareth." Mum was so upset because she loved Gareth. Everyone in my family loved him. The enormous headline told me all I needed to know. "My marathon sex sessions with Martine McCutcheon," it screamed in huge letters. I knew then what kind of person Gareth was. There was no way I was going back to him. He had betrayed me totally. I felt terrible, physical, tangible pain as I read what he'd said. I got up, walked into the bedroom, shut the door and cried my heart out. I cried until I fell asleep. I took my engagement ring off and threw it into this Roman pot on my dressing table which used to have all my lotions and potions in it. One day, months later, I went to retrieve it, but it wasn't there, and to this day I've no idea how it vanished. The pain was far worse than actually splitting up, and I didn't have the strength to brave it out. Instead, I suffered what, to all intents and purposes, was a mental breakdown. The following 2 weeks passed in a haze. I didn't get out of bed for about 2 weeks. I lost loads of weight. I couldn't eat as my throat had swollen up because of the non-stop tears. I wish I could say I was exaggerating, that I was being melodramatic, but I can't. I simply lost the plot. EastEnders were brilliant. I wasn't needed very much anyway, and they shifted the scenes about so I could try and get myself together without coming in and running the risk of meeting any more journalists. Paul and my friends took turns to try and tempt me outside, but I was having none of it. It was Mum who eventually got me to face the world. She came upstairs after I'd been out of it for more than 2 weeks and said, "Martine, if you don't pick yourself up and get yourself together, I'm going to have to take you to an hospital because I can't watch you do this to yourself." I used to think the notion of someone dying of a broken heart was a load of nonsense, but I've changed my mind. I believe people can die like that. In the end, Mum grabbed me, picked me up out of the bed and stuck me in the bath. Right, my girl, you're getting yourself together. You're too beautiful to let one man waste you like this. You've got to take care of yourself. Put a bit of makeup on and get back to work. We've all had a broken heart. We've all split up with people we love. It's painful, but life goes on.